Swings to Jefferson, penetrates, hangs in the air, throws back to Gordon, jabs right, then stops, fires, and tickles the twine again. Oh, a vicious jab step by Gordon Hayward, followed by a filthy three, and the Jazz lead it by 9.
This is Gordon Hayward. We are ready to tip it off. Are you? Let's do this.
Tip-off is coming up next. We'll start it off with the NBA 5, talk more about Quinn's camp, and obvious unselfishness plus Dante Exum playing well in day 2. It's all coming up on today's edition of Tip-Off. Oh, I timed that perfectly. There's no drum roll, though. Little tiny production there. I'm playing around with some things today. I have production pieces for the season that I'm editing, and so I'm going to play around with some things today. Hello, I'm David Locke, radio voice of the Utah Jazz, Jazz NBA insider. So glad to have you with us, whether you're listening on Stitcher or iTunes. I do understand there was a problem yesterday that for whatever reason iTunes didn't update. Apologize on that. I do believe Stitcher updated just fine. Dogcatcher, whatever it is you might use out there. So I don't know what happened with iTunes. Remember, it's always up at weareutahjazz.com, and it's always on the David Locke YouTube channel as well. Single game tickets went on sale yesterday at 10 a.m. Hope you grabbed those. Monday is our open scrimmage for the Jazz. For those that have been away for a little while, we've changed the format a little bit. We're opening each day with the NBA 5, which is 5 minutes on the league-wide NBA, and then we're digging in to the Utah Jazz. So make sure that you are prepared for that, and it means basically that if you don't want to hear a single thing about the rest of the NBA, when I start the NBA 5, move forward 5 minutes, and if you don't want to hear a single thing about the Utah Jazz, well then screw you. No, I'm just kidding. Then go at the end of the NBA 5, you can disappear and go on elsewhere. So let's start it off. Let's hit the NBA 5 this morning, or this afternoon, or whenever it is you might be listening. Heavy debate starting around the NBA right now of who's got the best backcourt that's existing in the NBA. I'm not sure I have the answers for it, but it's interesting in the Eastern Conference, the debate becomes Bradley Beal, John Wall, or Kyrie Irving and Dion Waiters. I don't think anything with Dion Waiters becomes the best in my book, quite frankly. So I'm not taking Dion Waiters, and I'd probably take the young Bradley Beal, John Wall. But it's another example of how awesome the young talent is that's coming across the NBA. Here is the most depressing news I'm going to give you all day, any day. Completely tragic. Red Panda is retiring. There will be no more Red Panda at halftime in the NBA. That is heartbreaking. Even worse when I suddenly realized my 9-year-old daughter, did not know who Red Panda was. Third NBA female official is coming. Lauren Holtkamp, who I think has done some Jazz preseason games, has been put on the regular list. There are 3 new officials this year. She will be one of the 3 in the NBA. It's surprising to me it's taken this long for Violet Palmer Decanter influence to have yet another female official in the league. It's really a non-issue at this point, but it's probably something that should be coming in droves. Interesting article by Tom Ziller on the 12 most likely GMs in the league coming, and not a single woman. When does that barrier get broken down? There's really no reason at all why men should be evaluating the game better than women. We do have Becky Hammond as our first assistant coach this year. The NBA has been slow on the female end of things. It's been the leader in all race issues, but it's been slow on the sex equality issues in a league that's run by completely men, so it's not surprising, but those doors are opening. Raptors are having training camp in Vancouver, trying to spread across the Canadian borders a little bit and create some interest there. Interesting article by Kevin Arnovitz, who's just brilliant, who actually, frankly, it's about a D-League ID, and I actually am dead serious. I actually think Kevin Arnovitz should be, he's one of the brightest guys I've ever met, should be the new D-League commissioner. He's smart, he's a basketball junkie. He's terrific. He's terrifically well thought. He communicates well. Might be worth a thought, actually. Ginger, if you can, on the bottom level, I need you to mute your mic. I, for some reason, can't do it, and you're bringing in some feedback. Kevin Arnovitz talked about a proposal that's floating around the D-League that is proposing 1 free throw every time someone goes to the line instead of 2. It would save up to 5 minutes of game time. The NBA is desperately trying to get down to the 2-hour window that soccer has been able to achieve. The NBA's cut 4 or 5 minutes. in games. It's interesting, one note inside of this is that the second free throw is made in the D League 5% more than the first free throw, and in the NBA 4% made more than the first free throw. For whatever reason, guys go to the line probably not paying attention, tired, missed the first, refocus, and that's a huge jump from 73 to 77.7 in the NBA, and the second free throw is much more effective than the first. It's an interesting idea, though. So if you get fouled for a three-point shot, you go to the line, that one free throw is worth 3 points. You get fouled on a two-point shot, the one free throw is worth 2 points. And you get fouled on an and one, the one free throw is worth 1 point. And we just move the game, continuing, try to speed up the game a little bit. The other one I think the NBA should go to the European does this a little bit and use the soccer rule on inbounds that the official doesn't have to touch the ball. I think that would be a huge step forward for flow, and it might increase a little bit of pace as well. Interesting note here, I looked up today, on the 15 most used lineups in the NBA last year, only 3 of them are returning to action. Indiana was the most used lineup last year at 1,468 minutes together. They have no George and no Stevenson. Portland is the most used, most returning lineup. Remember, they had virtually no injuries last year. It's why I'm a little hesitant on Portland. I would probably take the under on the 48.5 Vegas has out there. They're at 1,373 minutes last year, and the most returning, and they were great. They were plus, I think, 7 or 8 last season. Minnesota was the 3rd most used lineup. Love's gone. Dallas, the 4th most used. Calderon's gone. Warriors were the 5th most used at 819 minutes. And listen to the difference now. Portland's most used lineup is 1,373. Warriors' most used lineup is 819. That Warrior lineup, their starting 5 was plus 10 per 48 minutes last year, which is incredible. Toronto's 6th most used lineup in the NBA and returning and I think I may have mentioned that yesterday, but that to me they have the most used lineup in the Eastern Conference returning. I would suspect we see some nice growth out of Toronto. I'll take them maybe as my 3rd seed over Washington in the East. Washington was 7th most with Ariza gone. 8th was Boozer in Chicago gone. Houston 9th with Parsons gone. 10th Philadelphia Hawes gone. 11th Jazz numerous gone. Memphis 12th with 592. So actually 4 of the 3 of the top 10, 4 of the top 12, and Memphis was plus 7 with that lineup. But I don't think they're going to end up using that lineup the same way as they have in the past. Oklahoma City with Tabo was 12th. Charlotte with McRoberts was 14th. And Phoenix with Fry was 15th. An interesting one to keep an eye on as we're about to hit our 5 minutes, and we'll talk about it coming up more, is Phoenix without Fry. He was really the key to most of their successful lineups. We'll look at that in our NBA 5 on another day. But that, today, is your NBA 5.
Hey, this is Dante Exum. I want to hear from you. Call 801-200-3738 and ask me a question. That is 801-200-3738 to ask me a question.
All right, let's get to the Jazz Camp end of things. Day number 2 of Jazz Camp in the books. They went morning and afternoon session, and they're actually off today. Dante Exum is playing pretty well. I don't want to get hopes up. I mean, I've had hopes really far down on him. But I turned to Ron at one point and said, I wonder if this is a kid who's just going to need 2 or 3 good games, relatively good games early, and then he just explodes with confidence. There is an element of him. He's so young and so inexperienced. I feel as though there's a little bit of an uncertainty to what he's doing right now in how he's taking things in and whether he's all right and, should he bypass shots, should he take shots, those kind of things. I kind of almost feel like if he has a few good games, he really could accelerate where he's going. He's so skilled and so talented. Now, Ron quickly turned to me and said, look at that body. That is going to hit the wall as hard as we've seen come December, and probably really true, and that's why it's so great to have Ron around, is that, you think back about last year, Trey hit the wall right when he went to Detroit, had that good game, came out of that and just was like dead. Adrenaline probably carried him to that homecoming. And I remember, I don't know when we were in Memphis last year, but I was talking to him, and I think I shared this story with Ian Clark on Jazz Media Day, and Trey was like, I can't even jump. I can't even dunk. So Dante's going to run into that. But it have been some impressive aspects of what he's done so far. Again, I don't want to, I'm very reluctant to get high. I mean, I think, here's what I noticed. When I go to practice, I just watch Dante. I'm so excited to see him. He's electric. I just watch him. And, I find, and I said to Ron last night, I said, wow, if I'm like this, I can't imagine, what the average fan going to games is going to want to see him every second of every minute of every game. He's particularly exciting. He's played well, though. He shot the ball well last night in the non-contact evening session. His defense has been, I think, better than the coaches have expected so far. In some ways, he really, as we talked about yesterday, he picks things up very quickly and integrates them, and he's really skilled. I mean, there have been some plays he was at the top of the key and he just had that long right hand. Or excuse me, he actually had a right hand dribble, left hand. He doesn't do a lot of left hand dribble, a lot of right hand dribble. He took a long left foot stride and just suddenly was gone by his guy. Had his speed and blew by him, and in that sense, he's been very impressive. Not very impressive, but he's been impressive. He's not as far behind as I thought. I still think there's going to be real ebbs and flows. I think there's going to be some good games. I think Ron's right. I think he's going to hit a really hard wall in the process, which is going to in turn make it difficult for him to kind of continue that upward trajectory I was talking about. But it's been good for him. Day 2 of Quinn camp is very similar to day 1. It's just moving. Constantly pace, moving. He's on top of everything. There was a moment in practice where he was on the there was Zions Bank Center. If you think of just 2 full-court basketball courts, that's the way to think about it. He was on the far side with his back against the wall on the near side, right side court. So they had 4 They often have, very regularly, they have 4 stations, 1 on each of the hoops, and then they just, they'll 3 minutes and then boom to the next one, 3 minutes and boom to the next one, 3 minutes, and they're going down to the basics. I mean, one of the stations, it was literally how to get your arm up and into somebody defensively if you're guarding the ball handler. The other thing John Beelan mentioned to me that he was particularly impressed with was the amount of different things that they're working on inside of one session. So maybe they're working on that, and that's the primary aspect of it, but the bigs also working on defending the channel, and then there's a screen out on the back side of it that they're working on. And he mentioned to me sitting next to the Michigan head coach, really wonderful man. His son works for the Jazz. He was out for a day and a half, and obviously the tie to Trey. But he, and if those of you follow college basketball, I'm not really one of those, but I have some good friends who do. I mean, they think he's a genius. They think this is the best man offense guy in the NBA. He's been in college basketball, really just a basketball genius. But anyway, he was saying that he was just very impressed. He was taking notes and just notes and notes about what Quinn was doing, and he was just saying how incredibly impressed he was by the amount of things that inside of one station Quinn had guys working on. But an example of Quinn, and I'm going to leave some names out on this, Quinn's on the far side. There's a drill going on the near side, so he's as far away as he possibly could be. And Quinn didn't like, somehow Quinn saw he didn't like there was somebody coming down, and they had to make contact with a coach who was down here as a defensive player, and really, knock. I'm trying to leave any specifics out so that you have no idea which of the 20 guys it is. So I apologize, but so they really had to knock the coach a little bit, and somebody did it, and Quinn from the far side saw it, came not prancing, not sprinting, came over with authority, and that's not acceptable. Probably not in as nice of words. Do it again. And not acceptable again. Do it again. Not acceptable again. Do it again. And so 3 times this person had to run through this exact same thing till Quinn got what he wanted. And to me, it's just a statement, a little bit of. All right, who is not muted? It says everybody is muted. Everybody just check and make sure their mics are down. It's a statement to me more of just the detail Quinn is going to run through and what effort he's going to make on things, because the fact that he's watching that from the far side to me and sees that, he sees everything every second of every practice. A key phrase I wrote about yesterday that Quinn has used with the media yesterday and has uses a good deal is obvious unselfishness. Obvious unselfishness. Tyson, somehow your mic, even though you're muted, is coming through, so if you can turn it off or mute it, that'd be great. Obvious unselfishness is the phrase he uses, and there was a moment in camp yesterday where Cantor has the ball deep in the block. He's trying to make a move, not there, and he passes it out to Rodney Hood. Hood misses the shot, and it actually ended up that the defensive team got their 3rd straight start that way, so they win, and everybody else it's 4 teams playing, and Quinn was quick to Tyson, I need you to mute your mic, or I'm going to have to drop. Thank you. And Quinn was quick to stop everything and be like, whoa, 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 that was awesome. That was obvious unselfishness. Ennis Cantor, way to go. Great job, Ennis, because that's the passing that we need out of the bigs and playing with a pass and playing with a purpose. So I think that's very, indicative of kind of where he is. This guy, it is so abundantly obvious to me about Quinn Snyder. You have one of the brightest minds in the game, and you have a guy who's worked with Larry Brown, Coach Krzyzewski, Greg Popovich, Turo Messina, and Doug Collins. And you've got a guy who takes it all in. And, this Quinn's not doing anything average, by the way. So make sure you understand Quinn. He's not doing anything average. This is a guy, when he was at Duke, leading him to 3 NCAA Final Fours, he double majored in political science and philosophy. When he went to training camp in Indiana and he was at camp and he realized even if he made the team, he was the 14th or 15th guy on an NBA roster, he stepped out of that and was like, I don't need this. This is not going to be, I'm not going to be exceptional. So he leaves that, and he goes to Duke, and he becomes an administrative assistant for Krzyzewski, and he doesn't go get his MBA, he doesn't go get his JD, he goes and gets both, his Master of Business and his judicial doctorate degree. MBA, JD from Duke. Are you kidding me? Okay? There's just nothing about him that wants to be average. That's the essence and the brilliance of who Quinn is and the level which he's driving these practices, and you can see it in every second of everything that's going on. Whether he's coaching his coaches, whether he's coaching his players, there's no expectation of anything other than just pure, brilliant excellence from him, from his coaching staff, and that's where he's pushing the players. It's very interesting. All right, NBA rank keeps coming in. That's what I forgot yesterday for those who were, and I remember there was one other thing. NBA rank brought Dante Exum in at 173. Probably about right. I'm surprised Julius Randle's ahead of him. I'm not as convinced that Julius Randle is as NBA ready as everybody says he is. And I think Julius Randle's going to have foot surgery from everything I've heard at some point. That's a real issue. Alec Burks came in at 162. It's really probably somewhat appropriate, though. If you look at it and say, okay, there's 30 teams in the NBA and 5 starters, 150 would be starters, but I don't think every team is really filled with starters. So I would kind of put Alec at 125, 130, which is, trying to prove he's an NBA starter, which really is what he's doing this year. He should be doing it. I think he's going to have a pretty good year. I think this thing matches up for him very well. Even he said it yesterday with the media that, we're playing open floor, we're playing fast. That's how I make my living. That's what I do. I think that's true. And I just think he's bigger and a little bit, everybody's talking about Gordon, but I think Alec's a little bigger and stronger and mature and put together and working hard, and frankly he's shot the ball pretty well so far. So if he can, I said this the other day, I did this big breakdown on him, he just does not use enough of his possessions to shoot a 3 to be a shooting guard. I mean, he's at 10%. He's got to get that up to 20% of his possessions are shooting a 3. That's league average as a shooting guard. If he can shoot 30, 35, 33, 37, 37, that'd be awesome. But let's say he shoots 34, 35% from 3, 20% of his possessions. It's not great. Isn't that crazy that that's not great? But with the way he does everything else, if he still gets the line, it'd be brilliant. I don't know what the number is on. If he gets to 37%, he might be James Harden. Off the top of my head, I don't know James Harden's 3-point shooting. My guess is it's 37%. But if he starts to bury that, then we just got pure silliness going on, and he's made a huge jump. I think an unrealistic jump, and frankly, some of this is a little bit unrealistic in the sense that if you look at historically players that don't shoot the ball particularly well, James Harden for his career is 37% from 3. Okay, that's really scary. That off the top of my head, that was right. I guess that's what I do for a living, but. I think it might be an unrealistic number. If you look at guys who shot as Alec did at the University of Colorado, most of them don't become more than 33, 34, 35% three-point shooters, some even less. I mean, Dwayne Wade really has never, who's his best comp, has never added it. So Alec has already taken a big jump to be able to do what he's done. But, if you look at Alec, the thing I would say is if he can just increase that number, then all of a sudden, of attempts, even if the percentage goes down, it just changes who he is as a player. I think that's the key thing for him. If you look at his progression, it's been nice. Last year he ended up shooting 35% from 3, took 143. In his rookie year, he played much less. He took 45. Per 36 minutes, Alec is taking 2.3 threes a game, which dropped from a year ago. That's the concern I have. He went from taking 3 to a year ago to 2.3. He's got to get it back up to per 36 minutes, taking 3 or 4 3-point attempts. And if it means that his percentage drops under 35 to 33, I'm kind of fine with it. And then simultaneously, back the 6 free throws per 36 minutes is a beautiful number. And if he gets up to 80% there, it's a beautiful number. But he's at 162, and I think that's actually a little low, but I don't think it's crazy. What it's basically saying is trying to find out whether he's just a guy who comes off your bench or a guy who starts. And then Enes Kanter's at 154, and he dropped from 112. So that's a big drop, and probably deserved. I mean, if you remember last year, if Enes played, we lost. Now, is it coincidental or not? But I don't know. But that's enough to drop you in the rankings. And Enes has got to prove that when he can play with his teammates and he can play on the floor and he can be somebody who you play who wins. But anytime he played more than 20 minutes, we lost. And if he played 25, we lost at a higher rate. And if he played 30, we really lost. I think we won 2 games all year where he played 30 minutes last year. So probably fair to see those rankings drop to where they are. All right, let me check the question and answers. It's always nervous. Google has this feature called Capture, and it means someone can take a picture of me doing crazy stuff like this, and then it just said that somebody turned on their Capture app, which now means that any weird facial reaction I make can be captured in a picture. I'm always so pleased with that. All right, let's go to Clint. How has Rudy Gobert looked in camp, and what players do you think he'll be on the floor with? Well, he's looked long. He's looked better. I mean, he's so much improved from a year ago. He's still got some issues, right? He's still got to be able to move the basketball. He's still got to be rebounding traffic because his bottom is not as strong. I'm very curious to see what he looks like on Tuesday. And this, I think, preseason, though it's not the same thing, will be interesting to see what he can do because it's just not European basketball. It's not FIBA, excuse me. It's going to be interesting to see. He has been on the floor predominantly with, though the units were intermixed, but the second unit seems to be Booker, Gobert, Hood, Dante. And then I said yesterday, I think Ian Clark benefits from the open spot if he with Dante because he's a ball handler and relieves some of the pressure on Dante more than Toure Murray, but that could be Toure Murray in that unit. But I also just don't think we're playing that type of 10-man unit. I think we're playing 9. I think Dante will be on the floor with either Alec or Trey, or Gordon slides up to the 2 and Rodney plays the 3. Who from our current team do you see being a part of a future playoff title push? I think that's what we find out this year a little bit. I mean, I think the hope is that Dante's the first pick, the first part of that. I think our pick next year is the second part of that. And then I think we see where Gordon, Derek, all of them are fabulous players if they're in a right role that matches. So, Enes is the only one I think who really needs to prove that he can play all the way around in the NBA as both just a productive player. But I mean, Alex certainly has. If you on a very good team and Alex is your 6th man coming off the bench, Miami would have loved him last year. If you have Derek Favors or Gordon Hayward on your team and they're the 3rd best player on your team, they're fat. You're really good. So I think that's it's hard to answer that question in that sense. What have you been most impressed with about Coach Quinn? The level of detail, the pace of practice, the organization. His practice plans are amazing. His energy level is insane, and that there's just a real quest to everything he's doing. There's a reason why everything's being done, whether it's from one station to another, doing it as fast as you can because you're playing with pace, and don't go be looking like a puppy dog up at the sky and let's go. And it's very clear that he'll accept he doesn't mind a missed shot. Like there was a player who bypassed a shot the other day, and so he kind of ran through everybody. Is everybody all right if he shoots that? Is everybody all right if he shoots? Yeah, everybody all right? Everybody want him to shoot that? Okay, shoot that. Whereas, if you don't get in the right lines for the drill because you've stopped paying attention mentally, well, that's a bigger issue to him. So I think I'm just very impressed with everything and how he's asked. And Ron Boone, who's been around much more than I have, is equally as impressed. Ron and I attend these. Why isn't the D League like the minors in baseball? If a kid wants to play basketball, draft them and send them to the D League. It is. It is. Beside the Jazz, who's your next favorite team to watch? I love Brilliance. So I love watching LeBron. I love watching Blake at this point. I think he's broken through. I think he's just incredible. I love watching Brilliance, is all I can tell you. I have individual players who I know personally. I'll watch Ray Allen forever. I can't watch Nick Collison because I can't root for that team. But I love Nick. I love the game. I just love the game. This year I've got a little bit of a love affair with Andrew Wiggins, so I'll watch Minnesota. I believe he'll drop 20 on opening night. I think he's gonna be great. Who am I excited that's coming to town? Oh, I can watch Dirk forever. Let's look at our opening home games. Houston, I mean, Harden's unique, and I enjoy watching Houston because of the style they play. Phoenix, that open floor. LeBron, Cleveland, Dallas, Dirk, I could watch forever. Durant's incredible. Anthony Davis coming on November 22nd. Chicago, Joakim Noah's passing is a big. Oh, my gosh. I mean, I have him as my top 5 players. I was asked top 5 players in the NBA by Spence the other day, and I had the two obvious, Durant, LeBron. I put Chris Paul in, Blake Griffin, and Joakim Noah. So I could watch him. Clippers, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin come on the 29th. Denver on the 1st probably does not have a player that moves my meter, though I love Gallinari. I'll be curious to see if he's healthy. Toronto has one of my favorite players in the league of all weird things, Amir Johnson. I think he just does everything really, really well, and like the way they play. Orlando, Aaron Gordon's going to be fabulous for me to watch. I'm intrigued to see how he plays. 29th, San Antonio, there's Timmy D is self-explanatory. Manu. Miami comes in on the 12th. Wade, when he's trying, is great. Philadelphia has no one to value, and Andrew Wiggins on the 30th. Al Horford's one of my favorite players, comes in on January 2nd. All right, so pretty much up to January 2nd, I'd skip 2 games. All right, pretty good. Go buy your tickets. They're on sale. Hey, how about that? Bringing it full circle. The season ticket, single game tickets are available at UtahJazz.com. Follow me on Facebook at David Locke or Locked On Sports, on Google Plus at David Locke, Locked On Sports Google Plus community, and we're on Twitter at Locked On Sports as well. Have a great day. Thanks for tuning in. Be safe.